Hello everyone, this is Rename Villarosa, and this is Teaching Music in Elementary Grades. And for today's video, we will learn about the Lesson 11, which is on teaching timbre. But before we dig deeper about this topic, let's read first our objectives. Okay, in this lesson, the learners will be able to take note of considerations that are to be applied when teaching timbre, including this when writing down a music lesson plan as necessary. And the second one is learn examples of approaches and activities that may be used for teaching content pertaining to timbre. Alright. The previous lesson presented content that a music teacher needs to know to be able to impart something regarding timbre. And in this lesson, we will look at ways and how we, teachers, can deliver this to our classes. And before we go dig deeper with it, let's have a short recap first about timbre. So when we say timbre, this is what makes sounds special and unique. It is the reason why we can tell the difference between sounds even they are loud or soft and high or low. For example, when a piano, guitar, or a violin play the same note, we still know which instrument is being played or is playing. That is because each instrument has its own sound color, and that is what we call timbre. Timbre also help us recognize different voices, like knowing who is talking or singing just by listening. Okay? Now, there are points to ponder when teaching timbre. And here are several questions as a teacher that an elementary teacher has to think about in teaching timbre. The first question here we have, how do I teach difference between speaking and singing? This is for grade 1. Well, speaking is when we say words, right? Normally, it is when we say words. While singing, it is when we use tune or melody, okay? Now, how we teach this in our children or in our learners as a teacher. Now, example, when we say the nursery rhyme, we will tell a story like the Humpty Dumpty. So we will tell a story, and it is speaking, right? Now, after that, you will sing the Humpty Dumpty as a song. So that is singing. Now the children will notice that speaking has no tune, while singing has a music and a steady sound. So in that term, the learners would be able to identify the difference between speaking and singing. Okay? Right. For the next one, or the next question that you need to question yourself is, how do I teach different qualities of sound? Okay. So this lesson is for grades 1 to 3. Now, people's voices sounds different even when singing the same song. Okay? For example, how you teach this in elementary pupils. So for example, let the one child to sing the familiar song, a line of familiar song, like the Humpty Dumpty. Okay? Now then let the other child sing the same line as what you have. Let the one child sing. Okay? Then that the class listens and hear that some voices are high, there are low, soft, and loud. Now, the learners will understand that voices can sound different. Even when singing the same song, they will learn to listen carefully, okay? And identify if a sound is loud or soft and high or low. So this helps them recognize the difference between qualities of sounds in music. That each of us has a different qualities of sounds. Alright? Now, for the third question is, how do I present the topic about different musical instrument? Okay, how do I present the topic of about the different musical instrument? So this lesson is for grades 4 to 6. Okay, now as a teacher, you have to show pictures and play sounds of different musics so that the instruments students can see and hear how each one sounds, and that students would listen carefully and talk about what makes each instrument special. If possible, students try a real instrument in class. So if the real instrument is available, you can let the students or your learners to try the instrument. For example, you show a picture of a drum. Have you seen a drum? And play its sounds. So if not available, if the instrument is not physically available, you can download it to your phone and you can play what is the sound of a drum. So it sounds loud and strong, right? So in that, the learners would be able to hear and see that that's the sound of the drum. Okay, now you show float, and it sounds soft and airy, right? So you can download it to your phone, let them show the picture, and let them hear what is the sound of a flute. Now let the students touch or play a real tambourine or guitar if available. If you have the material, let them touch or play with it. Not necessarily joking play, but then try to let them play. Okay? Now, the learners will know that musical instruments produces a different sounds, and each instrument is unique. So in how it sounds and how it played. Okay? So that different instrument played a certain role, each an instrument plays a different sounds. Okay? For the next one, for the fourth one, is how do I teach them about the difference between SATB? It stands for soprano, alto, tenor, or bass. Okay? Voices. These are the voices, different voices. It is for grade 5. Okay? Now, as a teacher, you can use recordings to help students hear the difference between high, low voices. Excuse me. Now the students listen to duets and choirs to identify which voices are singing higher or lower parts. Okay? For example, in a song with 2 women singing, I have an example here. This is an example.
The major lips, the baffled king composing hallelujah. Hallelujah.
And that song is the soprano and alto. The higher voice that you hear, that is what we call soprano. And the lower voice is what we call alto. And men's voices, the tenor is the sounds higher. And the bass, that sounds very low. Something like that. And that's good to hear. Now, you can listen full in choir. We can often hear it in choir. That hear 4 voices together, that they were combined together. And this is very good to listen. This is so good if they harmonized. Okay, the next lesson you will learn about harmony. And that's very good. Now the learners will understand that people's voices have different ranges and can be grouped into soprano, alto, tenor, and bass based on how high or low they sound. So now you can identify what you are, what sounds that you have. You are alto, tenor, soprano, or you can do bass. Okay? Now, I hope that you learned something from this. Now for the conclusion, understanding timbre helps you or helps your learners as a teacher recognize and appreciate the unique sound of different voices and instruments. Through listening and hands-on activities, learners develop better listening skills and deeper enjoyment of music. So I hope that you learned something from this report today. Thank you so much for listening. God bless.